It's loading. Yay, we're live. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Gravity Max live stream. Today is a fun day. It's February 9th. It's a Sunday, as usual. And today we have a guest, but I shouldn't use a. We have some guests. That's what I'll say. Right.
We have a few.
We have...
This is our first guest of a guest.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have...
So... Yeah,
Go ahead.
a lot of this has been on the fly.
Yeah, so right now, Brendan is in his car as he's coming back from Vermont. And in his car, he has his own guest, which is Sophie. Say something.
Hi.
How's
there
it going?
She is.
So, we have 4 people today.
Yeah. So
3 of who are smart and know what they're talking about.
Oh,
And then
don't
there's
be
Brendan.
so hard on yourself, Brendan.
Yeah.
I don't like that all 3 of you made the same thing. I just feel so attacked.
All right, but we got a fun one for you guys.
Yep.
I'm glad Sophie and Brendan could pitch in. Brendan is a great guest. We've had him on before.
Yep.
You should definitely check out his channel, UE Films, if you want to watch that kind of content.
Yep.
But you can also watch our vids, which have previously featured Brendan, like the you were in the periodic table one, and you did.
Yeah, periodic table and then 12 hours.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yep.
Oh, how could I forget?
He was the all-nighter.
All-nighter.
Also,
We
Aliens.
lost our minds collectively.
Collective, yeah. That was fun. That was fun. Don't ask us to do it again unless we get a lot of subscribers real quick.
Yeah, if we get 10,000 subscribers by the end of tonight,
Yeah, yeah,
we'll do it.
Yeah.
If we get 10,000 by tonight, we won't stop streaming until next weekend.
Yeah, sure. Just straight week, rotating
Question,
schedules.
what's going on with this intro slide?
What? What did you say?
What's going on
I think
with
you
the
cut out.
alien face on the alien face on the intro slide?
Are you making
Sorry,
fun
I
of my
think you're-
position?
I think you're
actually have
cutting
an
out.
interesting story. I have
Yeah?
an interesting story about these cutouts.
Yeah.
I was in South Carolina when
yeah.
Max texted me because we were worried about the COPA stuff.
Yeah. We got to get rid of the animated characters.
I didn't have a sweatshirt, right? He was like, wear a sweatshirt so that you can be all one color. I didn't have a sweatshirt, so I had to... What I'm wearing there is actually my sister's sweatshirt, which is like about 5 sizes too small.
Little tight.
Which you can tell by the sleeves. You can really
That's
tell.
true. Yeah, I have my
Okay, well,
droopy...
I was actually asking about the alien face in the center that is faded.
Should we go to the plugs?
Faded
Yeah,
alien.
sure, let's go to the plugs. So, this video is not intended for children under 13 years old. If you are under 13 years old, please do not watch this video, as the topics we discuss are meant for those with at least a high school level of education. If you are not 13, you will not understand the scientific topics discussed in this video. So yeah, today we're talking about the butterfly effect, and we're talking about a lot of historical events, and yeah, these are advanced topics as always. We like to esteem ourselves on making complicated, interesting videos. So if you are not 13, please do not watch this video. It is not
We
intended
got some
for
complexity for you today.
Yep.
It's complex.
Yeah.
It's like a building.
Yeah, there's
with
chaotic
multiple rooms.
chaotic systems. That's what we're talking about. You know, chaos theory, Ian Malcolm.
I think
Anyways,
Brendan is on the move.
I think so. I think so. Yeah,
Can you
so
hear that?
Yeah, that's a little overwhelming.
yep. Yeah,
Turn
so
my mic.
yeah. So anyways, yeah. Hopefully COPA doesn't sue us now that we've had this on our screen for 30 seconds, so I think we're good.
Yeah.
So now visit the Gravity Max website. We have a link to my book on my website. We also have other things. I don't know. We have, what do we have? We have links to everything on our website. So it's like a...
Brendan, how far are
hub.
you into A Truly Dead Rock? I know that's not the plug we're on.
Yeah.
I am on page like 180.
Wow.
Nice.
My completely real review so far is the first 20 pages are really slow, and then it picks up and turns into a very interesting.
Nice. Thank you. I will take that what do you call it? Helpful helpful criticism. I forgot what they like to call it.
Constructive
Constructive criticism. Yeah, that's what it is. Constructive. Yep, that's probably true. So the beginning. Well, I really like to establish the the world. But yeah, so it's interesting. Anyways, we'll talk about the book in a second. Okay, so follow Gravity Max on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter because we are doing daily social media posts on these platforms. We have links in the description. You may have seen it. We had some technical issues for a while. So I basically had a link to my website in my bio on Instagram, and for some reason I think Instagram just was not it's viewed it with some suspicion. It thought it was a little sketchy.
It rejected the link.
It didn't like the link, and I mean I get it. It's a Google Sites, like I mean that's probably pretty sketchy, just Google Sites, but it was kind of hurtful, Instagram. It was not very nice. Google Sites
website is what?
Google Sites fit my means as a YouTuber with 540 subscribers. Like that's an appropriate level of quality of Google Sites. So yeah, but we removed all of the links from the Instagram, so that is all sorted out. So now we have updates about our next live streams, also about our videos every Wednesday. So yeah, so follow those. Those will actually give you useful information now. For a while, they were kind of defunct. They weren't really telling you anything. But now they are actually useful. So yeah, so just take a look. All right, and then also follow Sebastian on social media and visit his YouTube channel, 128 Seconds. He's got some great videos there. Great videos. We do have them on this channel as well. However, I think as he wants to develop the channel more, you might move away from having all the videos on this channel as well.
Yeah, like eventually. Yeah. But yeah, for right now, you can still get to them through the Gravity Max channel that you're watching right now. Yeah, basically what I do is I just take a topic, no matter how complex or like how simple, and I explain it in under 128 seconds. I feel like to truly know and understand a topic, you got to be able to explain it in like roughly 2 minutes, which is what 128 seconds is.
Yeah.
Right now I have 3 videos up, and I got another one in the works, a really good one that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a cool channel. I definitely want to put time and effort into it. So
so definitely go visit his channel. Also visit.
Still do it, but I know
sorry.
Sorry. I think we're cutting. Am I cutting?
A little bit.
Yeah, you sound distant. Like your mic is
at
in
the
your
end of a
shoes
tunnel
or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because Sophie had the headphone mic.
Oh, that's cool.
Stolen back.
Okay.
Okay. If you can figure out how to wear this. You used to be able to do this. I don't know if you still can. You used to be able to host other people's videos on your channel. So you could upload them to 128 seconds and then create a playlist that shows on the main screen for the Gravity Max YouTube channel.
Okay, we'll get working on that.
Yeah.
Want to do that, but you might.
We'll figure that out after we're done streaming here.
Yeah, but definitely, visit Sebastian's channel. It's a great channel. It'll be great.
Thank you.
So yeah, check it out. Also, check out the Instagram page. Carl Marksman.
Yeah, I think I still have that. Wait, let me check.
Yeah, one picture. It's great. Links in the description.
I have that one picture, but I post stuff on my story now.
Oh, cool. All right. What's the difference? I don't really know.
The story is just like it sticks around for like 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah. These I only have like
these
Facebook,
newfangled technologies.
Yeah, no, I only have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts like for my YouTube channel, nothing else. So I'm not very well versed in them, but it is still a good way to connect to people. I mean, every company has a social media branch now. You like to see Wendy's just insulting people online for some reason.
Did you see their diss tracks?
I have not.
They have diss tracks. They have songs on Spotify.
Yeah, apparently it gains. I don't know. It's beneficial to companies to show this like very unprofessional, like just kind of insulting derisive front on social
so
media.
It's funny though.
It's pretty funny.
though.
I
It's only
agree.
funny
It
if
is
they
pretty
do it
funny,
right,
but
though.
usually brands like to be kind of stiff. Usually they like to be like, we take ourselves very seriously. But you can see a lot of these brands on social media, they do not take themselves seriously. they act like random people. So it's kind of interesting. But anyways, just check out for updates. If if you're on if you're on Instagram a lot, then it's convenient to get updates for the Gravity Max live stream on Instagram. So yeah, just check it out. Anyways, okay. Now, Truly Dead Rock. Link to Amazon
Great.
is in the description. You should
Buy it.
buy the book. It is a great book. If I do say so myself. But it is a sci-fi
And
novel.
I do.
Yep, it is a sci-fi novel. I put like almost a year of work into it, and I'm very proud to have published it. And I self-published it on Amazon, and I think it's really enjoyable. A lot of people have told me that they really liked it, and I think that if you are a sci-fi fan, then I think that you would like it too. So check it out. Yeah.
It's a very
So-
good book. I did not expect the plot to go where it has gone
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
The plot twist so far has been quite
Yeah. Nice. All right, so let's get started. Examples of the
Okay.
butterfly effect.
We got the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
You've heard about it in school, maybe. You've heard about it in that one video game, which I forget the name of.
The butterfly.
But you might have heard about it in various different sources. But right now, you're hearing about it right here.
Yep. Yep.
We're going to be talking about the butterfly effect throughout history, throughout like a bunch of different time periods, which is what history is.
Yep.
We're also going to be talking about how it's affected our own lives, and maybe even Brendan or Brendan's guest could provide anecdotes, because I'm going to provide a pretty good anecdote.
Yeah, so the butterfly effect is really interesting. You might have, it's very prolific. It's commonly known. There's a lot of, time travel movies where they talk about the butterfly effect. So, so it's pretty cool. Should we go to the first slide?
I think we should.
Cool. All right. So before we give you examples, we just want to give you a little knowledge on what the butterfly effect is. Let's see. Should I start a 128-second timer and see if Sebastian can explain the butterfly effect in 128 seconds?
Let's do it.
What do you think? Okay.
All right, here we go.
Wait. Let me start the timer. Okay. And 3, 2, 1.
All right, so hello everyone, Sebastian here. You know me from 128 seconds. You should check out that channel. But right now, we are talking about the butterfly effect. So on the left, this is Edward Lawrence. And basically, he was a meteorologist, I believe. And he created all these different algorithms and all these different things, which was used to try and predict the weather. I don't know exactly what year he did this in, but I think it was around the 60s. So he basically made all these algorithms and to predict the weather, and he ran it a couple of times. But during the times when he was running them, there would be a small change that he thought was insignificant. But that insignificant change actually made the outcome completely different. So this is also known as chaos theory, and the most prolific example is the flapping of a butterfly's wings can lead to a tornado, which is the next two images you see right there. And we're going to talk about how that's gone through history, but basically you can think about chaos theory in relation to your own life, to different topics that exist, or even just the things around us. Like the invention of the car all stemmed from the invention of like the wheel. And it's just that progression of things. And that is the butterfly effect in under 128 seconds.
Nice. Yep, that was under 128 seconds. Nice job.
Avoid.
How many seconds was that?
You had like 47 left.
Ooh, kind of close.
Yeah. Anyways, the butterfly effect. It's a really interesting story. So, it's this guy. He was putting in initial conditions for a weather system. He put in like 3.77521 or whatever, right, for the value of wind speed at this particular location. And he ran the simulation, and he got some interesting results, and he just wanted to repeat the simulation like after his lunch break. And so he went back And instead of putting in 3.77592, he put in just 3.776, right? He just rounded it off. And he was thinking, yeah, it won't be exact because I've like rounded to 3 digits instead of 6 digits, but it's fine. I'll get an approximate result. And so he ran the simulation and he got just completely different results, which isn't exactly what you would expect. The wind speed, like if you think about it, just increasing the wind speed by 0.1% or 0.01% can result in just crazy different temperatures, pressures, just all across the system of meteorology. That's why it's so hard to predict the weather. Like more than 7 days in the future, it's just like it's a crapshoot, you know.
Yeah, he did that. Lawrence did that in 1961.
Yeah.
So I was right. It is in the 60s.
But yeah, so it's interesting because
yeah, go ahead.
Because this gives us our formulation of what is a chaotic system. So a chaotic system, I mean, chaos, you know, you just think of it as a noun, right? Or as an adjective when you say chaotic. But there is an actual formal definition for what is a chaotic system. And that's a system where a approximate like change in the initial conditions results in a drastic change in the output. So it's not proportional, you know, like you would expect that if I change the starting conditions by 1%, the result should be maybe 1% or 2% different. But in a chaotic system, changing the input 1% will change the result, you know, 10, 20, 30%, or just completely just change it entirely, which is crazy. And yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a pretty good history and explanation of what this is.
Yeah.
So,
and I love the explanation from Jurassic Park with Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum. That's my favorite.
Yeah, a little monologue of his.
Yep.
But we're gonna be talking about a couple of examples. How many do we?
I think we have 11,
4, 5,
right?
6, at least 9, 10. Yeah, it's either 10 or 11 because
Cool.
I'm not going to recount.
Nice.
So, these are some pretty interesting examples. Like when we were doing our research and we looked at these, I was like, this is kind of nuts. You know, like a couple of these is like history would have been drastically changed.
Yep. Just
and
0.1%
especially
change.
Our first one as well.
Oh yeah, this is a crazy one.
If we're sitting
yeah. Also, feel free to. Wait, sorry. What are you saying?
I just said some of these are pretty.
Yes.
Yeah. So I also want to say, feel free to comment in the chat if you have any comments or questions for us, and we will get to you by the next time we change the slide. That's what we'll do. So yeah. All right. So a minor genetic defect. So this is our first example, and it begins with Queen Victoria. So she had a small mutation in her genome that caused her to be a carrier for the hemophilia trait, which is a disease in the blood. It's a genetic disease where your blood does not coagulate as fast as someone that does not have the disease, and it can result in like small cuts, like a paper cut, resulting in a lot of bleeding. And it can be, it used to be, well, I mean, it still is fatal, but obviously medicine advances, so people like in America and like Europe, they're able to handle it fairly well. They have medications for it, but in the past, it was very deadly, very serious. So, but Queen Victoria, she didn't have it; she just carried it, right? So
yeah. I think only men can actually be afflicted from it. I think women can only be carriers.
Oh, okay. So it's got to be on the X chromosome.
Let me fact check that real quick.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. Well,
it could be.
Yeah. Either way, maybe it's easier if it's an X chromosome disease, then it's easier for men to get it, but women can still get it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Females can also have hemophilia,
Okay.
but it is much rarer.
Okay.
When a female has hemophilia, both X chromosomes are affected, or one is affected and the other is missing or non-functioning.
Okay. There you go.
All right.
So that's what happens. It's that. So she was a carrier, but her other X chromosome had a good copy of the coagulation gene, so she did not have the disease. Yeah. So now we have her daughter Alice, right? She
Yes.
inherited the gene from her mother, but again, only one copy. So she was a carrier, but not a not someone suffering from the disease. So she was fine as well. Then her daughter Alexandra, also a carrier, but doesn't actually have hemophilia. So they're all getting pretty. They're fine, you know, but they still carry
They're
it.
just playing hot potato.
They're playing hot potato, exactly. And yeah,
Time.
yeah, exactly. So Alexandra, the granddaughter of Queen Victoria, ends up marrying Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. She is she is Queen Tsarina, I think is the word. Tsarina. Yeah, Tsarina Alexandra, who ends up, well, you know the story of the Russian Revolution, but let's stay chronological. Okay, so her son, her son Alexei ends up getting the hemophilia disease, not just the carrier. So he actually had it. And so this was a big deal. The Russian family, because there was a lot of absolutism and their power was said to be ordained by God. It's a common trend with a lot of the old monarchs. A lot of the old monarchies, they were said to be royal lines descended from God himself, right? So if they had hemophilia, like a disease that can be pretty deadly, then you're not descendant of God. How do you have hemophilia, right? That would pretty much be the public. Yeah, that would be the public opinion. So they. Oh gosh, they are cutting out like crazy.
Yeah, Brendan, we can't really hear you. It sounds like you're in a washing machine.
Here, wait. Okay, try and say something very clearly.
Oh God, I cannot think of anything.
Okay, do you have any comments so far on this little?
I was gonna say that it was sort of seen as like a punishment from God, and God showing the people that they were unfit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so they didn't want people to know that their son had hemophilia because it would cast doubt on their legitimacy as rulers. So they ended up withdrawing from their populace. They ended up becoming more, what do you call it, like recluse, you know, like they wouldn't go out, they wouldn't make public appearances as much because their son would often be sick and they wouldn't want to like show up with a sick son, especially because he was their only son. So he would be the heir to the throne of Russia. So he would be the next Tsar because they, other than him, they had daughters. So, you know, it was quite a precarious situation. And then what happened, this is where it gets really interesting. This guy, Rasputin, he comes in and so Alexei was like sick because he had, you know, like something was wrong, internal bleeding, I believe, which can be very deadly for people with hemophilia. And so his mother, the Tsarina, went and called this mystic man who like lived out in Siberia and said like, please, we need your help. Like our son's sick. Like we need him to be cured. And then Rasputin, he's like, oh yeah, he'll be fine tomorrow. And then just by luck, he was fine tomorrow. And so then the
was it by luck or by magic?
Yeah, maybe it was by magic. He was a mystic after all. So the Tsarina, I keep trying to say queen, right? But no, the Tsarina, she is like, oh my gosh, like Rasputin, you just saved my son's life. Like, come be a royal advisor. Like, which is pretty crazy, because you know he's just some guy that lives out in the Siberian tundra. You know, he doesn't know about government and how to lead. So they take him in as a royal advisor, and the public is just like, what? Who is this guy? This is just crazy. It would be like the president just taking a guy off the street, right? Like, and just being like, hey, you are now the Secretary of State, right? Like that would just not that would not go well. So the Russian people, there was already discontent that was being bred amongst the Russian people. They were not happy. Things weren't going well in Russia, and so this all like culminates in 1917 with the Russian Revolution and the execution of the Romanov family. So they end up dying, which is pretty sad. The Tsarina and Alexei and the whole family by the Red Army.
Did they die though?
Oh,
Did they?
I think they did.
Or
I'm
did
pretty
they
sure.
escape?
Yes.
They escaped.
Okay. Well, if you believe the Disney movie, then they escaped. But, but in real life, I think they found bones or something. Yeah. So yeah, not Russian Revolution, not a time marked for its joyous like glee, like in happy situations. So yeah, history. Generally, bad things happen. So yeah, so that's what ended up happening. So the communists, they took over Russia, and you've got Lenin, and so they started the USSR, and yeah, the USSR. So yeah, so then, right, this is already quite a bit for one genetic, like one little mutation to cause, but it goes even further, okay? Because during the Cold War, the USSR occupied Afghanistan, and like this occupation of Afghanistan resulted in the creation of the organization of Al Qaeda, which they are the perpetrators of 9/11. So, if you follow this whole train of events, Queen Victoria had a slight genetic mutation, and that caused the USSR to exist, and it caused 9/11, which is just crazy. I mean, that's your butterfly effect.
This is a great example of a history changing one.
Yeah.
Because like, arguably, like, looking at it more skeptically, you could say that it wasn't just because of the hemophilia thing did the Russian Revolution happen, but it definitely contributed to it. So like to a large part, because it was the added descent of the Russian people which caused the Russian Revolution, and the Rasputin stuff all occurred like
because
right before the revolution like broke. So at least like the times of these things would have been super like shifted, if not. But
it would be 5-10 years later.
This would never even, like, 9/11 would never even have happened if Queen Victoria didn't have that hemophilia gene.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's just like a base pair, just like a tiny little copy error in mitosis or meiosis. So it's just crazy to think that. But yeah, I like how you brought up the alternative theory, which this is an interesting one. This is sort of a counter to the butterfly effect, and it is basically saying that there are like attractors in a system. So there are great attractors. So like things have to move this way eventually. The speed at which they move might be affected by certain events, but things will tend in a certain direction. So like that's really interesting because there are some systems where that occurs. Say you throw a ball in the air, right? That ball is going to come back down, assuming you aren't capable of throwing it at escape velocity. But if you provide little like boosts of thrust upwards.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you provide little bits of thrust upwards along the rise and fall of the ball that you threw in the air, it'll fall later, you know? So this, I don't know what name for this theory is, but it's basically saying that, since we're looking at examples of the butterfly effect in history, it's basically saying that human history is not a chaotic system. It is actually an ordered system that seems chaotic, and that things will tend a certain way over time. Because if you think about it, I mean, there's 7 billion people, so just one change with one person seems kind of crazy that could cause so much change amongst billions of people. But, you know,
saying that it's Is it saying it's predetermined? Just
Well,
to a certain place.
yeah. Well, the predetermined thing, chaos butterfly effect doesn't imply predetermined either. It just means that it's hard to determine, because with the butterfly effect, if you did have 100% perfect data, then you could predict everything perfectly, but that is just impossible. So it's more like it kind of is a little bit more deterministic. I will agree with that. But if you think about it, yeah, like the Russian Revolution, you could argue, was always going to happen, even if Rasputin didn't become part of the royal advisors. You could say that this was going to happen anyways. Maybe instead of 1917, it would have happened in 1927. But even that, like that would change things, and it would change the occupation of Afghanistan. And you could say, well, maybe that would still like result in the rise of Al Qaeda. So it's interesting. It's hard to determine, and the only way to truly determine anything is through experimentation. And of course, since we don't have time travel, we can't just experiment there, right? But
yeah.
But it is something to think about. So you have these opposing theories. You have the butterfly effect that just causes things to go into chaos, but you also have just, I don't know, the anti-butterfly effect that causes things to move along trend lines and approach certain things, like y equals 1 over x approaches 0 as x approaches infinity. So yeah, so that's our first example.
Yeah, that one was probably our longest.
Yeah,
one.
That was our longest one. We have some shorter ones.
Yeah.
So should I change slides?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
This one is I believe it, but I don't think this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well,
Yeah.
I got what he was saying.
Oh. Okay.
Brendan doesn't think that this is as like significant as like a small thing contributing to it, but let's explain it and then we'll go further into it.
Yeah. Okay.
So smoking kills. Again, I gotta say, I gotta love the titles we have for all of these.
Yeah, we made them very poetic.
Yeah. So during the U.S. Civil War, there was obviously the North versus the South, and one of the most prolific, not prolific, it's prolific.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most prolific generals from the South, I can't talk today, was General Robert E. Lee, right? He is still one of the most famous generals of ever. Yeah. Master tactician, and he was responsible for a lot of the victories that the South had during the Civil War. So he would always issue his orders out to to the soldiers. Like, he couldn't really email them to people. Yeah. So he had to make copies of like a telegraph and then send them out, and that gets passed on to the soldiers. But a northern group of soldiers raided a southern camp, a southern controlled camp, and they found one of Robert E. Lee's orders wrapped around some cigars. And I forget the name of who like left it, whose it was. I could probably find it after this, but those orders basically were the strategy plan for like the next 2 to 3 years for the South. So the North they obviously hit like a jackpot. Yeah. And using that, they could predict the South's every move, which allowed the North to gain a major advantage over the South, and eventually led to the South's surrender, which is what you see here. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting. So it's all because that dude wrapped the orders around some cigars. The North was able to win the Civil War. Yeah. Now, of course, so this is the argument that I think Brendan was posing. The anti-butterfly effect, you could say the North was always going to win. You could say the troops, it had more troops, it had more economic
Like, it was a lot more, it was better equipped for the Civil War, you could argue. But yeah, I mean, who truly knows? In the end, there's butterfly effect and there's anti-butterfly effect. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You never get
So
to see.
What? Here, you cut out.
You only get to see what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So what he's saying is, like, you can only see one version of the way things happened.
yeah.
You can't see the alternate timelines because it didn't happen. So we can't truly know if this is an example of the butterfly effect or if this was predetermined. But at the very least, you can say, even if large social, like, movements, if countries are hard to move by the butterfly effect, then it still would affect personal things. Because if you think about it, right, like, if they didn't find this pack of cigars, the war probably would have gone on longer. And even if it hadn't gone on longer, right, which is kind of, I would say it would be hard to argue that it wouldn't go on longer, because this was a major, like, finding this out meant that the South couldn't do any more surprise attacks. Like, everything was known. So you could argue, right, the war would end later, which means that more people would die through the process of the war. And that means, some people wouldn't be born, some people would grow up without, like, a father. And this would have trickle-down effects into, like, personal, like, family trees. And, like, a lot of people that are alive today probably wouldn't be. And there are a lot of people that, like, never existed, but that would in this alternate timeline. Just because of the way that, like, that it all trickles down. And, yeah, I mean, the world would be vastly different. Even if it didn't determine the result of the war. So yeah.
That one's a pretty, like, simple one.
Mm-hmm.
Just they found the orders and it gave them a massive advantage.
Yeah.
But the next one is off the hook.
All right.
And this one lives in infamy. The legendary sandwich.
The legendary sandwich. I love this one.
Can we just take a minute to appreciate the images that we have down here?
Yep. Oh, that looks like a grilled cheese sandwich. Right? Oh my gosh.
Put time and resources into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, someone made this. It's beautiful. Grilled cheese. Oh, they're on the merit.
It's a guest of a guest of a guest. Your GPS is
your GPS system.
Our first AI on the Gravity Max live stream.
Oh, I would like
Brendan's GPS.
Yeah, I would like to ask your GPS how it feels to be the first AI on the Gravity Max live stream, but I don't think it has emotions.
So it would just be like, turn right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. It's such a good, like, grilled cheese. It probably wasn't a grilled cheese sandwich that's in this story, but yeah. So here's the story.
Maybe it was. Let's see if I can. Yeah, you tell the story.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find out what kind of sandwich.
Here's the situation, right? So right before World War I, things, they were in turmoil. There were tensions between different countries. Okay, and so there was the country Serbia was under the rule of, like, the modern-day country Serbia was part of Austria-Hungary, right? And under Austria-Hungary, they were not happy. They wanted to be their own country. So the local, like, powers of Serbia, they funded this terrorist group called the Black Hand. And the Black Hand made a plot to kill Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. So he was the next in line, right? And so he visited Sarajevo. I forgot where that is. Is it in Serbia? Or
Sarajevo is the capital of Bosnia
okay.
and Herzegovina.
Okay, so he visited Bosnia, Herzegovina, and basically one of the members of the Black Hand organization was actually from Bosnia, Herzegovina, which is a place that's close to Serbia. I think they're bordering each other. So, yeah, so he was one of the members of this group. And so the assassins, they were stationed along like the motorcade, like what they knew of the path, because I don't think they made it 100% like public knowledge. But yeah, so they were stationed all around, and none of them actually killed the Archduke. They didn't succeed at first. So they all pretty much failed. So this guy on the right, Gavrilo Princip, he was like, I failed. And so he went to this like restaurant, and at the restaurant he ordered a sandwich, and then he ate the sandwich, and then, right, because he was at that restaurant, and also because the Archduke's driver took a wrong turn because they had one path planned, and then they switched. So he was thinking that they were taking the original path instead of the one they switched to. So he took the original path, which took them right in front of this sandwich shop. And Gavrilo Princip, like, you know, he was like, oh, wow. Like, seizing the opportunity, he went outside and killed the Archduke. And the death of Archduke Franz Ferdinand resulted in Austria-Hungary declaring war on Serbia. Oh yeah, sorry. Serbia was not part of Austria-Hungary. It was Bosnia and Herzegovina was part of it, and Serbia was a neighbor. So yeah, so they declared war on Serbia because they killed, you know, Serbia just assassinated their heir to the throne. And so then what happened was Russia came in Serbia's defense, okay? Prussia, or Germany, came in Austria-Hungary's defense, and then France in Russia's defense, England and France's defense.
That is my next video that's going up on my channel, is World War I in under 128 seconds.
Yep. Yeah, so
but just, also, my research into this sandwich.
Yeah.
So I found the name of the deli, which was
did?
pretty easy.
Nice.
It is Schiller's Deli. Or, yes, Schiller, SCHILLERS. It's actually Delicatessen. Or Delicatessen, or whatever.
Yeah.
Is on Franz Joseph Street, and it is the general consensus that what he was eating was a cheese sandwich.
So it was a grilled cheese sandwich.
Maybe that means grilled cheese, but the way that it's phrased here, it says, the general consensus of scholars is that it is a cheese sandwich.
What types of cheese, though? Multiple types of cheese.
What type of cheese would they serve in Bosnia?
All right. But yeah, this is...
thanks, Brendan.
Yeah. This is a real interesting story, though. So yeah, pretty much a grilled cheese sandwich as depicted here.
I do want to point something out real quick.
Yeah.
Here, hit present, then present again.
Okie dokie. Escape and present.
Alright, you got it?
I do.
Look at how freakish Franz Ferdinand is. Tell me that's not the most, like, terrifying man you've ever seen. If I saw him
picture.
Coming down the street, I probably would have shot him. But
wow, okay.
Just out of fear. Look at him! He looks like a walking nutcracker.
He does kind of look like a, cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon villain.
He literally looks like he eats souls.
Yeah.
What's going on with the wife?
Yeah, that's not a good picture. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What did you say, Brendan?
Chicken pox. What's going on with the wife? Does she have chicken?
I think she has a veil over her head, right?
Polka dot. Yeah. Polka dot veil.
Yeah.
She has
but
not...
look at him. Yeah. Look at the guy who he's, like, giving a handshake to. He's, like, about to steal his soul. He's about to, like, cut out his pancreas.
Oh my gosh.
Look at him.
It's like... Yeah, it's like the handshake. A firm handshake with Silas.
A very firm handshake.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
A significantly firm handshake.
Yeah, but... Yeah, so basically, this... sandwich, if he hadn't gone to this sandwich shop, if he had, gone down the block to his favorite, I don't know, Italian food restaurant instead, right?
Yeah, in Bosnia.
Yeah. Well, hey, they have Italian food in America. I don't know. Do they have, like, Italian food restaurants in, like, England and other countries, right? Germany.
They gotta.
I mean, they're so close.
Do they have Italian food in Italy?
I'm gonna say yes. But yeah, so he went to his favorite, fine. He went to his favorite schnitzel shop, right? And so he didn't have the chance to kill the Archduke. Then bam, no World War I. But of course, then again, you have the nagging anti-butterfly effect theorists in the background, like the devil's advocate, right? So you could say this was just the catalyst to World War I, and if it hadn't been the assassination of the Archduke that caused World War I, instead some other event would have happened in some other country. And because of the way that all these countries were tied up in alliances with each other, it would have caused the same conflict just like a few months later. So, yeah, you could make that argument, but don't.
I guess you can't.
You could make that argument, but could you please not? Because we're trying to do a video about the butterfly effect. Anyways. So it's interesting. So, yeah. Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one is another, big one.
Mm-hmm.
This is, history changing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the letter that you see in front of you is a letter written by Ho Chi Minh. If you do know who that is, you probably know where this story is going. If you don't know, then allow me to take you down this path.
Yep.
So Ho Chi Minh was at the time he wrote this, he would have been a political figure.
Mm-hmm.
But he wrote this, and you can see the date up there. It says February 28th, 1946, or maybe it was March 11th that it was received, if that's what that stamp means.
Yeah.
But either way, it was in the 40s. Ho Chi Minh wrote this letter to Woodrow Wilson, who was the president.
Mm-hmm.
And he sends this letter, and it basically is asking that Vietnam receive independence from France because it was a French colony. Woodrow Wilson just ignored the letter, basically. And
I think we might have the wrong letter here, because Woodrow Wilson was a president from 1913 to 1921.
Yeah, I thought I had the thing that in my head that it was 1919.
Oh.
He wrote that letter. So
maybe
I think
this is a different
wrong one.
Okay,
yeah.
This is a different letter, but another
different letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that letter could still tie into what we're talking.
Yeah.
So the original letter was give us independence from France.
Yeah.
Woodrow Wilson ignores it, so Ho Chi Minh gets kind of angry about that. So instead, and he was being diplomatic. He wasn't give us independence or else. He wanted to talk with Woodrow Wilson.
Because Vietnam had been a colony of France, so it was French Indochina, and they did not want to be French Indochina anymore. They wanted to be their own thing, and so they were asking the US for help.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. They were just asking the US.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So he starts going off and studying the works of Karl Marx,
mm-hmm.
who is known communist, and the reason why I have my Instagram handle, not because I'm a communist, but because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
It's a funny name.
Mm-hmm. It is a funny name.
He met with Trotsky and Joseph Stalin,
mm.
and basically he gets instated to become the communist leader of northern Vietnam, and he rules over northern Vietnam, and they start launching attacks on southern Vietnam, which is not communist, and that starts the Vietnam War when the U.S. comes in to aid. So because he ignored the letter, the Vietnam War was started, or at least it could have been prevented.
Yep. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, because instead, if the U.S. had helped Vietnam gain its independence from France in the 1910s, then they would have been allies with the U.S. Thanks for the help, bud, right? And so So they wouldn't have gone into.
We got chat. We do.
We do. Yeah. Okay, sure. Let's check the chat. So we've got Jam McCarthy, 1975, Les Sandwich. We've got Johan, Les Sandwich, and Johan says again, "Oh, is this World War One?" 128 seconds says indeed, and 128 seconds is Sebastian. So yeah.
Indeed, I am.
Indeed, I am. May the real 128 seconds please rise. Anyways.
I stood up.
Nice.
I'm now standing at my desk.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so this is interesting because since the U.S. wouldn't help them, Ho Chi Minh went, to the USSR, the other big world superpower, and eventually, got help from them and became the leader. And then, Vietnam War, which was, which ended in loss. It ended in us losing the war, the U.S., or you could say a tactical retreat. But because I think that's how they spun it when they eventually pulled out of Vietnam. They said it's a tactical retreat. No, you lost. Yeah. Yeah. So anything else on this slide?
Yeah. Well, it would have been awesome if we could have prevented the Vietnam War, because in my mind, it's like the worst one.
Yeah.
And like most people would say, oh, it's World War One, and World War One was definitely like one of the worst ever.
Yeah.
But like the war crimes that went on in Vietnam, and the fact that it took place in like the 60s.
Yeah.
So like more modern day was like, makes it all the more horrific.
Yeah.
And like being an American, like it sucks.
Yeah.
The Vietnam War is the only war that America ever lost. And it's like, if we could have prevented this, if Woodrow Wilson didn't leave Ho Chi Minh on red, we could have like prevented all this.
Yeah, it's interesting because here I think the anti-butterfly effects like denier isn't as strong here, because if the U.S. had helped French Indochina become Vietnam in the 1910s, then it would have just been a friendly nation. So
yeah.
So this is a big example, I think, because it's hard to refute these claims. You could say like, oh, maybe the U.S. wouldn't have gotten France to blah blah blah, but it's harder to refute.
Yeah. Brendan, you got anything? Thanks, Brendan. All right, let's go.
Oh my gosh, Brendan. Oh, this is difficult. Are you almost home, Brendan? Are you almost home, Brendan?
Use.
Oh boy. Okay. Let's just keep going. Okay. One act of mercy.
Yes. So this soldier is named Henry Tandy, and he was a British soldier. He was a private in World War One, obviously for Britain, and he messed up. Let's talk about why.
Yeah.
You want me to take this?
Sure. Yeah, you can take it.
All right. It's just because there goes Brendan.
Yep.
Just because I did Vietnam. But anyways,
yeah.
Here you go. Henry Tandy.
Yeah.
He's a private. He's not very good at his job because Britain had just scored a victory in World War I against the Germans. So the Germans were all retreating, and he has a German soldier in his sights who was retreating, but he sees that the German soldier was wounded, so he's like, all right, I'll spare you because like you're already wounded and we've already won this battle. Well, that soldier turned out to be Adolf Hitler.
Yep.
And Henry Tandy goes down in history as quite possibly the worst soldier in known history.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he pretty much he saved Hitler's life, which, before he was Hitler, which is, you know,
Yeah.
not a very good. Like, you can see he's like kind of haunted in this photo. This photo was taken after World War II, right? Or when was this photo taken? The first one?
Well, the photos are usually taken. So Britain got involved in like 1916, 19. I should know that. I'm making a video on.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1917, 1960.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this wasn't after World War II. This was just after World War One.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, yeah. So yeah, I imagine. So yeah, you think about it. It's kind of like how all time travel tales revolve around either saving Lincoln, killing Hitler, or saving JFK. Right? Like, those are the big three things that you as a time travel storyteller can talk about. Like, it's become such a pop culture phenomenon of a time travel story revolving around one of those three things.
So yeah, this one's a pretty obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
If he hadn't of spared Hitler, Hitler would not have had the chance to do what he did. So but he didn't, and he did spare him, and that led to the Third Reich, which is the photo you see in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it led to the Holocaust and just like everything that came due to him.
Yeah.
So thanks, Henry. Thanks, dude.
I bet he felt real good about himself right after.
Garbage at your job. Just see yourself out. That Henry Tandy died in like 1977. Oh. So he actually lived for a decent.
Sucks. He must have been haunted by his memories. You know, like for 30 years of his life, he's just like, what have I done?
Yeah, he was born 1891 and he died 1970.
Oof. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel bad for him. But yeah, so then you have your anti-butterfly effect argument that if it wasn't Hitler that was in charge, it would have just been someone else in the Nazi Party. But you know, they wouldn't have made the same decisions as he did, because he made a lot of irrational military decisions, which ended up in costing Germany the war. So from an anti-butterfly effect perspective, because like, you know, a lot of the like Operation Barbarossa, like invading Russia in winter, which is like top 10 list of things history has taught us not to try. Invading Russia in winter, printing your own money, right? But yeah, so, you know, maybe under a different leader, then they would have like won, but it's kind of doubtful that they would have won. But you know, you never know with history, right? So
yeah,
sometimes either way, a lot of people would be alive today and a lot of people wouldn't be alive today if things had gone differently. The interesting thing with history is that, like, as a time traveler, if there is continuity, you really can't like go back before your own birth, because you just risk, like, it's not even risk. I would say it's pretty much guaranteed. If you go back before your own birth, like more than 10 years, then just because of chance happenings, right, like, it'll cause you to not exist anymore, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, if you think about it, like, for us particularly, you know, we're born, you know, like 2004-ish, right? So if one of us as a time traveler were to go back in time and prevent 9/11, 9/11 would have had like a big effect on our parents' lives, like at that time. And if that didn't happen, things wouldn't have been like shaken up, and as a result, we might not have ever like been born, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Or if not us, like, it would be someone born a month later who's like the worst version of you, you know. So someone who was born like a month after you, and like, if you were to ever meet them somehow just through crazy like time travel shenanigans, you'd be like, oh, this guy sucks, he's horrible. So you just never know.
Brendan is going to be joining us shortly.
Oh, cool. Okay, he'll be on his computer.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool. So yeah, you never know.
Thank God.
Time travel, it's just too complicated because of this butterfly effect. You just never know what'll happen, and so that's what I find interesting, and that's why I think a lot of time travel stories just kind of wouldn't work because it's like, if you were to do that, then there's a high likelihood that you would never exist and cause a paradox.
We got chat.
Oh,
We got
chat. Missing Music says, the look in his eyes screams, what have I done? Yep, that's what I'm saying. Top 10 things history has taught us not to try. Sounds like a top tier video idea. Hey, that sounds like a good video idea. You know what? That might be...
Hey, you know what? That could be a pretty good video, actually. That's a good video idea.
Yep, I might make that, you know. Let's see, I'll think about
Good
it.
idea, Max. It's a good idea. Thank you. That's
and Missing Music, thank you for the video suggestion. Yeah, top 10 things history has taught us not to try. Well, let's see, that would be like probably 4 weeks from now. I have one video coming out Wednesday, and I am going to see a rocket launch soon, which is exciting. So I'm going to have a video on that for the next My Video slot, and then after that, then I might do something like that. So we'll see. The future is uncertain. Ooh, butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So should we move on?
Should we go to the next one?
Yeah, sure. Cool.
Yes, we should.
A cloudy day. Ooh, this is a rough one.
You can take this.
Okay, I will take this one. So, America. World War II was ramping down, but Japan was being Japan. It was being difficult, and it would not surrender. In this time period, there was a lot of like never surrender type stuff. Like that was the culture of Japan. So they were not surrendering when they really should have like surrendered, like because the end of the war. But they were not surrendering. And America did not want to launch a full land invasion of Japan because that just would have cost a lot more like U.S. soldier lives. So, they look and they're like, hey, we've got this little thing called the Manhattan Project. So then they end up using the atomic bombs. And in our version of reality, they used it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? It was Hiroshima first, I believe, August 6th.
Yeah.
I believe that was first.
Okay, so Hiroshima was bombed by the atomic bomb on August 6th. And Japan, I don't know, they did not surrender quite yet. So the 7th passes, the 8th passes, and they get to the 9th of August, and they're like, you know what? We're just going to do it again. So their initial target was a town or a city called Kokura. It was a city in Japan, Kokura, Japan. That was the original target for the second atomic bomb. But when the bombers got over Kokura, it was cloudy. So they're like, oh, this won't do. We'll just go to Nagasaki. Which is just crazy. Because think of all the deaths that occurred because of the atomic bomb.
But also think of all the people that were saved.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So all of this death, all this destruction.
What was the population of Kokura at the time?
Probably larger than Nagasaki.
I am not sure, but yeah, you think.
I'll get Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you think of all this death, all this destruction, which was rained down on Nagasaki, could have been rained down on Kokura, Japan, which is just crazy. And the deciding factor, clouds. Like, how anticlimactic, right? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't a cloudy day, if it was a clear day, then it would be Hiroshima and Kokura that people would talk about, not Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So yeah, so that's
Hiroshima and Kokura do sound better together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say.
All right.
You're gonna write a buddy cop show.
Oh my god.
Adventures of Hiroshima and Kokura.
Oh no. Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
Because this butterfly effect, it doesn't it's not deciding a war. It's blah blah blah. But I mean, the fate of one city and the fate of another city, a tale of two cities, right? That's what's going on here. I mean, think of an alternate timeline where it just wasn't cloudy, which really is just a result of it wasn't as hot. You know, like it wasn't as hot, so there wasn't as much moisture in the air. There weren't as many clouds,
Yeah.
and it was a clear day. And that being the deciding factor in like 100,000 deaths is just crazy.
It was so the population of Nagasaki was 240,000, and 74,000 people died.
I couldn't really get a definite number.
It was probably bigger. If they chose that one over Nagasaki, it was either bigger or
I
had
would
more of
say
an economic
so.
influence.
Because, like, obviously, Nagasaki's population had a significant dip, but right now Nagasaki's population is at from 2015, it was at 429,000. So
God,
even due to the
a third of Nagasaki died.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I would say Kokura has to be bigger.
Yeah.
Because
or more economically influential, more tied to the emperor, something like that.
Yeah.
It was chosen as probably the second option. Nagasaki was probably the third as most impactful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the most impactful would have been Tokyo, but they didn't want to destroy Tokyo. So you might not know, it might be smaller. They were trying to go for like middle of the road. It's
it's one of Japan's like biggest cities.
Yeah, it's really dark, really grim and morbid. But it's just so interesting that something just like weather, just clouds, which, that was the initial chaotic system, that was the first chaotic system we were talking about. That's how we came up with the butterfly effect, just weather. So just weather.
Yep.
It was probably crazy. Whoever made the decision, it was like, all right, we cannot hit this city. What city? Who? What city do you want to bomb? And a small group of people had to decide which area of Japan are we going to take tens of thousands of lives from.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Just totally crazy.
And then because of fallout and radiation, like the death toll, it was like 1 million.
Yeah.
Like effectively, it was like total, it was like 2 million dead from both the bombs.
Yeah.
But it would have been worse from the research that we just did. It would have been worse if those clouds weren't there.
Yeah, but take that, butterfly effect deniers. How do you argue against this? Like, sure, the same general trends and the same global histories are the same, but personally, lives would be drastically different,
And so another interesting take is you could think about all the potential butterfly effects. What if Japan had somehow uncovered the plans for nuclear bombs? We nuked them and then they sent one back. Think of how different history would have been.
Yeah.
All of these small potential butterfly effects that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's the scariest part because you don't know. Because a butterfly effect that didn't happen is just, it wasn't cloudy today. Right?
Yeah.
Bam. That's like a butterfly effect that doesn't happen. So you gotta think ooh, I'm holding this water bottle. I'm gonna drop it. But should I drop it? Because if I don't drop it, what if that results in nations going to war? But if I don't drop
what if dropping a water bottle
results in the nations going to war? What do I do? What if
you dropping a water bottle causes a turtle to die, and that turtle had a special genome in it that scientists would have been able to research, and finding a way to break down plastic or lead to solving some major disease?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you look, when you look into the butterfly effect too much, you can be paralyzed by indecision because you can be like, okay, wait. If I make this decision, what if this results in blah 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 crazy stuff in the future?
It's like the crystal from Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah, the death
one. The death crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from season 4, episode 1. Yeah. Yeah, it tells you how you're gonna die. But yeah, it's crazy. Butterfly effect stuff. That's why I really like butterfly effect stuff. It's just so fascinating.
And it's also very easy to understand.
Yeah,
because it's such a simple concept, but it has such meaning.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Very causal. You can see the cause and effect. You can see the sequences. When you study history, you see this led to that, led to that, led to that. But what if something slightly different happened? Then everything would be different. Yeah, it's so fun. That's why I love time travel stories and just alternate history stories. I'm reading 11/22/63, which centers around the Kennedy assassination. As I was saying, one of the big three time traveler things.
I mean, right now, the book I'm reading is A Truly Dead Rock, which you could pick up on Amazon.
Yep. Yep. All right.
But speaking of the Kennedys.
Next slide. A bad back. So, do you want to take this one, Sebastian?
Sure.
Cool.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Yeah, we were the joke that we were doing before is like all the incorrect ways that you can say JFK. Like JFK and John F. Kennedy are like the two most used and accepted. But if you start saying stuff like J. Fitzgerald K or like John Fitzgerald
F.
K, John F. K,
JFK, just like.
Yeah, it does not.
Yeah, J.F. Kennedy.
J. Fitzgerald Kennedy. That sounds more normal. I don't know.
That's
weird.
The worst one. That's
really?
The absolute. But anyways, so JFK, which is the best way to say it, as you can see here. Well, you can't see it here because he's crouching, but he was born with one leg shorter than the other, which led to him having like back issues. And in the picture, that's him at like football. He played football in college, and he got injured, and that led to even worse back issues, basically. So after playing football, he fought in World War II, and he became a war hero for like when his ship went down, the sinking of the PT-109. He saved a lot of his crew's lives. Might have even saved. And that screwed up his back even more in those like efforts to save those men. So he gets elected president because he was a war hero and people liked his policies. But his back had been so messed up that in his later life he had to wear a back brace, basically, so that his back wouldn't like break on him. So as you can see here, he's in his car, in his death car, I guess, not a death bed. But
death seat.
And he's actually wearing his back brace there. So he got shot twice. The first shot that hit him when he was assassinated he could have survived, because if he had gotten shot only that one time, like same trajectory, same everything, and he got to a hospital, totally could have survived. But he gets shot the first time and he can't duck down or like move side to side because of his back brace. He's forced to keep his head upright, so he's forced to keep his head visible for the second bullet to come and end his life. So if his leg hadn't have been shorter than the other one, he could have survived that assassination attempt.
Which I guess is another birth defect leading to huge historical, which is relating to the previous one where my commentary was stellar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Brendan, what do you think? Yep, that's right.
Yep. Yeah, this is so interesting.
There was also a dog in the back of the car.
There was.
But he didn't make any noise, so you didn't get to hear the first dog.
Oh my gosh, wait, there was a dog in your car?
Oh, what was the dog's name?
You know that what's the tiger from Winnie the Pooh?
No idea what you're talking about.
I forget his name.
Well, I can't remember. Was it?
It
wasn't Eeyore. That was the dog.
Yeah.
What was the pig's name? Piglet? Was the pig's name Piglet?
I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's original.
I don't know.
I think it was.
We're getting banned in China.
I could see it being Piglet.
I think it is Piglet. Yeah, his name is literally Piglet.
So what was the dog's name?
I forget.
Oh.
I don't. Yeah. But anyways, this is a definitely an important one. Like Max said, it's one of the big 3 events of time travel.
Yeah.
Like, he's reading the book by Stephen King pertaining to these events.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is another really important one. JFK's assassination was kind of like the 9/11 before 9/11, if that makes sense. It was like the one big tragic event that like all Americans felt. Like when JFK was assassinated, it didn't matter if you were Democrat, it didn't matter if you were Republican, it didn't matter if you like wanted zebras to rule. It was like everyone was sad.
Yeah.
Like collectively.
And it's sort of like the moon landing where everyone remembers where they were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So.
All right, we can go to the next one.
Yep.
Awesome.
This one is a crazy one.
Yeah, I missed.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Jeez.
All right, you want me to take this?
Sure. Okay.
All right. So you might be looking at these letters and what do the numbers mean?
Yep.
But I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So that is the Buffalo Bills record in 1970, I believe. Here, let me pull the let me pull it up real quick so I can get all the dates correct.
Yeah. So they won 3 games. They lost 10, and they tied 1. Which.
Wow, they did a really good job.
Yeah, it doesn't sound really good to me.
Okay, yeah. So it was
doesn't sound good.
1970. So the Buffalo Bills barely lost a game in 1970 by missing on a bad pass for a touchdown. That loss put them down as the worst team of the 1970s and the worst performing team, and that means that they get the first pick. Like for the when they're drafting players, they get the first pick because they perform the worst.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. So their first pick was O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson, you know him. He allegedly killed his wife, and there was that massive trial. But basically, because O.J. Simpson got drafted for the Buffalo Bills, he had to stay in Buffalo because that's who he's playing with. While he's in Buffalo, he meets his wife, Jessica Simpson. I don't know what her maiden name was, but Jessica Simpson. He then allegedly kills her. Then he goes to court, and his court lawyer, is the Kardashians' father, Robert Kardashian. They win the case. OJ is found to be innocent, and that makes the Kardashians somewhat famous. And that kicked off the spark that allowed the Kardashians to become famous.
Yep.
So this is kind of like a double event because that one missed pass like caused O.J. Simpson to meet his wife, which then he allegedly killed.
Yep. And
it attributes to the Kardashians' fame. All because they missed that one pass in 1970 against the Patriots, I believe.
Yeah, if they had just made that pass.
This is a pretty good one to disprove the naysayers to the butterfly effect, because what was going to happen if he didn't get drafted there? He met someone else, and then there was another huge trial because he allegedly killed the other person. Like, this one's... You can't really say that this one was a butterfly effect.
Yeah, that's why I like to take a moderate stance on the butterfly effect. I think maybe large societal movements, maybe those can't be affected as much, but small interpersonal like events, those can be affected greatly. It's interesting because like it's just crazy if they had just made that pass, such a simple thing, just like football game, just like if they had just made a pass. And they were already like the worst team. It's not like they would have won anything great if they had just not sucked as much, right? Then so many things would be different. This was such a high-profile court case. It was a big event, a big news event in America, and obviously, then someone I don't want to say wouldn't have been killed, but depending on what side of the court case you believe, but of course legally he was acquitted.
Yeah. Well, the court case wouldn't have even happened.
Yeah, the court
going
case,
by strict butterfly effect. Case would never have even existed if they hadn't missed that pass.
Yeah.
If the Buffalo Bills didn't suck ass in 1970 and still today.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a Bills fan. Who am I kidding? No one is. But
I don't get it.
Yeah, me neither.
If they didn't suck in the 1970s, OJ wouldn't have gone to court.
Yeah.
Not in the same way he did. The Kardashians wouldn't have had a platform to become famous.
Yep.
And
so we
wouldn't have to deal with keeping up with the Kardashians.
Yeah, that show.
The Bills had sucked.
Yeah.
What a shame.
I mean, it's crazy to think, right? Just one pass can result in such a high-profile case, and then also such an interesting TV show. Yeah.
Oh, we got chat.
Oh, cool.
We do have chat.
We have.
You want to read it?
What?
You got it, Smash.
Oh no, Max, you're the one that usually reads the chat.
You got chat.
You want me to read the chat? Okay. Missing Music says, the tiger was. Wait, just tiger?
I think that's how you pronounce that.
What?
It's got 2 G's.
Oh, okay.
I think you pronounced it differently.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, what?
I think it's a little different.
Okay. Well, look, the tiger. It's just okay from the kids show. Whatever. The tiger was an equally uncreative name. There.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it. That's the name of her dog too.
Yep.
Okay. I hope she doesn't ever lose her dog and have to go around her neighborhood calling her dog's name.
That's literally the joke I made days ago.
Yeah, that wouldn't bode well.
Be so
wouldn't go well.
Yeah.
Same thing if your dog is named Snickers.
Yep. That would not go well either.
Better.
I
that
think
one's
there was
better, but not good.
I think there was an actual police report filed because someone was looking for their dog.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh
Anyways, so I shall move on to the next slide.
Yes.
A cold spell. Oh, okay. This is an interesting one. So.
Oh, this is a good one.
This is a good one. So a cold spell.
Well, it's not a good one.
These are all horrible tragedies. But.
Yeah.
Especially the next one after this is a terrible tragedy.
Yep, the worst.
Oh my god.
Anyways, so
worst tragedy of them all.
I think I know what the next one is.
Yeah. So okay. So a cold spell. This is really fascinating. So, on January 28th, 1986, this was the weather. This was the temperature in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And look at that. 7 a.m. It got to a low of 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I don't know if you know what Florida is like, but I can attest that is really cold. That is really cold for Florida.
That doesn't happen
degrees, there? Not supposed to happen in Florida. That is very cold. So, this was an abnormally cold night. And the next day, there was an event. There was going to be a rocket launch. And so they didn't see anything wrong, 23 degrees, fine, that's chilly, whatever. And they went ahead with the launch. And that launch was the Challenger launch.
Oh,
which
boy.
Resulted in the death of the crew, including the school teacher, the civilian, not an astronaut, who ended up dying on the Challenger explosion, which was quite a wrench thrown into NASA's big workhorse. I don't know what I'm saying. Whenever there's a big, high-profile explosion and death with aeronautics and NASA, it causes a ton of people to be like, is this really worth it? I don't know. We're gonna cut your funding.
Yeah.
So this was slowed down space travel every time there's a big tragedy like this. And if you think about it, just in general, it was a tragedy, and it was just because of 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Which, in Connecticut, that's like Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, for Florida, that's got to be like...
it was a record.
That's
it was a record.
Yeah.
It was a record cold night. And And this is fascinating because the mechanical failure in the Challenger explosion was likely the O-ring they were investigating. And it was that, like, it got too cold, it froze overnight. And, they should have had inspections. Of course, they don't usually do much inspecting on the day of, but if you think about it, if they had, before they built the rocket, like a year before, right, if they had looked at the O-ring and see, okay, how low can it go? They likely just, they tested it down to whatever temperature, it was fine, so they're like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
But that temperature probably wasn't as cold as 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So if they had tested it down to 23 degrees Fahrenheit and saw, oh, okay, it breaks down like a little above 23 degrees Fahrenheit, then on the day of the launch, they would be like, hey, it got down to 23 last night, we might have to delay things. And then they would have, figured it out, and then this could have been prevented. But no, they didn't test that cold of a temperature because, why would you? 23 degrees in Florida, we don't need to check that. I
wonder if there's any residual butterfly effect from this, just because instead of starting at like the O-ring, it could start at children watching it. So I wonder if there are any things that resulted of the children watching it.
Yeah,
Did any children see that and decide that's unacceptable and then go into a career like at NASA?
Yeah. It's interesting too because this is another little butterfly effect thing, is that before they wanted to have a school teacher on, this was like a NASA publicity stunt pretty much, and it backfired. So they wanted to have a teacher on to be like, look, we have a teacher, we're NASA, come fund us, right? But before, they wanted to have Big Bird from Sesame Street on the Challenger rocket for their, promotional, for their, like, getting positive press, right? So they had the actor for Big Bird. They were trying to see what they could do, and they were like, nah, your costume, it's 8 feet tall, doesn't really work, doesn't really fit, we're going to go with someone else.
That's a minor inconvenience.
Yeah, but
I don't think
imagine if they had said, oh, we can figure it out, we can pack it correctly, right? And they're like, you're good, let's go ahead. Then Big Bird from Sesame Street would have died on the Challenger explosion instead of a school teacher, and I think that would have devastated that alternate reality. If you think about that,
oh my god,
that isn't like butterfly effect, that is like sledgehammer effect to a timeline. Think of all the traumatized children in the 80s that like would have grown up to now be like horribly adjusted 40-year-olds that would all be like serial killers, right? I think that would have, that would not have gone well. That timeline is probably on the brink of apocalypse. No, not the brink of apocalypse. I bet they're post-apocalypse. That timeline, that reality is just horrible. So, we could have had it better, right? The weather, it couldn't have gotten as cold, or they could have tested the O-ring better, but at least we're not. Big Bird died on the Challenger explosion reality, because that would not be a good reality to be in. Yeah. So, yeah.
To clarify, all deaths are bad. Well, yeah, most deaths are bad.
Looking at you, Henry Tandy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, well, of course. It's either way, it's a tragedy, but the public reaction, you know what I mean, can result in more like craziness. Like someone dies in a car crash, who cares? Like, that's the general public reaction.
Wow.
I'm just saying, because cars are like way more dangerous than like planes or boats or anything.
Ships.
Yeah, for some reason people are afraid of flying, just like passenger jets, right? Small crafts are still fairly dangerous, but just passenger jets, people are so scared to fly on passenger jets often.
It's not passenger jets that scare me.
Yeah,
it's other people. I'm terrified of other people. They make me quake. They make me my bones.
I know, like you see the person next to you and they say, stow your laptop in the overhead compartment or under your seat. Don't stow it in the pocket on the seat. And they stow it in the pocket on the seat and you're like, oh no, this plane's gonna crash. Or like you're coming in for a landing and they say, please make sure your tray tables and seats are in their upright and locked positions, and you see the guy next to you is leaning back 5 degrees. Oh my god, that must be the scariest thing.
It's terrifying.
Right? Yeah, but yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of these butterfly effects don't just result from the event themselves. They result with public reaction to the event. So,
Yeah.
public reaction to a car crash, like, that's just like the banner scroll underneath the news. But something like this was top, headline. This was talked about for
Yeah,
days.
no, this
yeah.
was probably headline for like a week.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Which, a week
more,
in journalism?
Because in the 80s, you have to consider a week in 2010s or 2020s now journalism versus a week in 1980s journalism, right? News stories lasted longer. Also, you know how people say it's not a new decade yet? Okay, I have like this argument.
It is.
It is.
It is.
Okay, so here's what pisses me off, right?
It just is.
So they say, actually, it's not the next decade yet because we started on year 1, not year 0. So the decade doesn't start.
No, year 0
2021.
was year 1. By the time we got to year 1, a full year had passed.
No. There was no year 0. It was just a year 1. So,
yeah, no.
No, so we're missing a year 0. No, that is true, right? But they say, so right now we are in the 202nd decade, right? We're in the 202nd decade. And the 203rd decade will start in 2021. So people say, ha, bam, it's not a new decade yet. Okay, fine. If you're going, it is not the 203rd decade yet, but it is still the 2020s, okay? Because we're looking at different definitions here. If you say the 19th century, the 19th century is not the 1800s, because the 19th century is the span of time from 1801 to 1900, and the 1800s is the span of time from 1800 to 1899. They're slightly different. So to those of you that say, oh, a new decade hasn't started yet, if you're talking about the 2020s, then you're wrong. A new decade has started. But if you're talking about the 203rd decade, then you are correct. The next decade hasn't started. But I'd hazard a guess that that's the first time me saying this you've ever heard someone say the 202nd decade or 203rd decade, right? Who says that? No one says that. So to those of you saying it's not a new decade yet, be quiet.
Max, do you need to take a minute and talk to a therapist? You see,
no, I'm just kind of heated.
I get fired up.
Because I'm gonna be real here. I reacted the same way the first time I heard it. Sebastian, I think you were there for it. I was so heated just because I was like, you're wrong. You are incorrect. You're objectively wrong.
Yeah, it is the next decade. Like, be quiet.
I just live in a constant state of
of what?
Of rage.
Of rage.
Oh, yeah.
Just pure anger.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
you
no,
really
I'm fine.
I've played Siege.
I'm fine. I get mad at semantic things.
I punched my desk, but it didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Down.
Yeah. No, because here's the thing. People like to make a semantic argument that's stupid and is like, yes, of course, technically, but we're just trying to speak in a convenient manner, right? But then sometimes they're like technically wrong if you go into it, and that's what upsets me. Because I'm like, no, you're wrong. Because you know how it's like, they're like, yes, that is correct, but technically you're wrong. Well, technically, you're wrong. Bam. That's my response. You just got to go
we
deeper
should move
into
on.
technicality. Okay, I'll move on. I'm just saying. Okay, next slide. Okay, there we go.
A false
promise.
Oh boy, this is a good one.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest tragedies in America's history.
Yeah, no, this was sad. When I found out about it, a false promise. So, there was
Is that JFK?
What? Wait, there is not a human in this photo.
That is a college.
I don't see the college. I just see
hit present.
Big
hit
face.
Present.
Hit present.
Oh.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So in I could calculate what year it was.
A calculation. Yes.
It was wait, if he was born
so that's why I haven't been able to see the first 2 pictures you guys have been talking about in every single.
That's why.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So in the late 90s.
Okay.
This guy named Gideon was lied to, right? He spent his high school career in Singapore, and he wanted to come back to America for college.
Okay.
And he was like, I want to be a bioengineer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, yo, show me colleges that like have courses about like bioengineering.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, go to, I'm not going to use the real name of the college.
Okay.
College A.
Uh-huh.
So they were like, oh, dude, they told him, and they were like, dude, go to College A. They got the best bioengineering classes ever.
Mm.
So Gideon's like, great, I'm going, right?
Nice.
So he trucks on over. He goes out of Singapore. He comes back to America, and he goes to College A, right? Yeah. And when he gets there, he realizes that they totally lied to him. There's like 0 courses with bioengineering, like absolutely nothing. They have like a biology course, but that's
and
like
a technology
Bio
course.
101.
Exactly, yeah. But that is not what he was like looking for.
Yeah.
So he's like in distress. Also, like some of his credits carry over from Singapore, so it was an entire mess.
Yeah.
So he basically has to stay at College A because he doesn't really have a choice because of like the credit mishaps, and he's already spent so much time and effort into like getting to College A because transferring from Singapore to America was like really difficult. So he has to stay there. He has to like at least be there for like 2 years.
Yeah.
So his roommate was this guy named Jason, right? Gideon and Jason were like pretty good friends. And Jason knew this other guy, and that other guy was named Aaron, right? My dad did not like Aaron, not at all. So Jason and Gideon were supposed to go to a festival together, right? And Jason got sick, so Gideon was like, oh, come on, dude. And Jason was like, it's just take Aaron. And my dad, I said my dad, so I spoiled it. But Gideon was like, all right, fine, I'll take Aaron. So him and Aaron actually became pretty good friends because of them going to the festival together. So long story short, he ends up living in a house, like in a shared apartment house type of thing, with Aaron and a couple other guys. And Aaron also knew this girl named Allison. And through Aaron, my dad met Allison, who you could probably guess is my mom. And that's how I was created. All because my dad was lied to. Yeah, national tragedy. All because my dad was lied to in college. You know, about which college he should go to. I was born, you know. That's a pretty crazy butterfly effect.
And that
I think this is
how
like
I
the
met your
first
mother.
real picture that we've ever shown of me. Because like
I could show another.
What about the picture? What about the
no.
picture at the beginning of every slideshow? Every live.
Second.
But yeah, I like stories like that. And that, kids, is how I met your mother. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's that picture too.
Oh, should I
present again?
Alrighty.
You'll see.
Right up. That's more like a silhouette of you, honestly. Like
it's desolate.
Yep.
It's devoid of life.
It's got what, 5 pixels?
Yeah, exactly.
Count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep. Yeah.
I want an 8-bit rendition of that.
Honestly, yeah, that would
can't get much worse.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Anyways, yeah, so that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Child was born because someone was lied to about a class that they took.
Yeah.
And our next one actually also relates to classes that you take.
Sure. Oh, we have Jan McCarthy 1975, Big Bang Bop.
That is how I was born.
Bip Bang Bop.
Oh.
That's what they say. That's what he says. Okay, so
'Cause you're
our
big.
next guest, not George Lucas. It is because of George Lucas.
Is not George Lucas.
Not George Lucas.
We need to preface that.
What do you mean it's not George Lucas?
Our next guest is not George Lucas.
Not George Lucas.
But
it relates to George
if
Lucas.
George Lucas had not have been born and had not have created Star Wars, we would explain why. So George Lucas was born in 1944, right? And he wrote Star Wars, and Star Wars came out in like the 70s. New Hope did. That got big. Yeah. You know, a lot of people liked it. Yeah, actually. No. Have you heard about it?
What movie?
Star Wars. Have you heard of it? It's kind of niche, but have you heard about it?
What's Star Wars?
It's basically like a rom-com, except it's like not.
Oh, all right, I got it.
That one?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I think I know.
You might be thinking of the other one.
I think I am.
All right, so the green guy.
Oh,
Baby Yoda from the memes.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, that one.
They turned the meme into a show.
That's crazy.
Into a movie, actually.
A movie?
What? How did it?
Is it on Netflix? Like, when did it come out?
No, I don't think it's on Netflix. I think it came.
I don't know what Star Wars is.
Anyways,
no, it's crazy. But anyways, so George Lucas, he wrote it. He wrote all the good ones, and some of the bad ones. And if he hadn't have made that, well, okay, so he made that. Let's establish that he made it.
Yes,
I take anatomy currently, and it's a very it's my most difficult class that I'm taking. Like it's beyond a college level class. Let's be honest. That class is literally
in
med school.
I'm
in med school, man, over here.
Yeah, I'll probably never take that class, but I'm on a different path. But
ladies and gentlemen, if you are to take anything away from me, anything away from this live,
it would be his body weight. Please take some of it away.
Oh no.
It would be don't take anatomy and physiology unless you want to be like either a doctor or you already hate your life. Okay. So, I take anatomy.
Yeah.
And it's a full year course, right? So I've taken it since the start of the school year.
Yep.
And I sit next to this girl, and there's a different girl behind me who I know kind of, and every day I would just go in, like, work, you know, it was like tables of two, so I'm next to this girl, and, like, we only talk when our teacher's like, turn to the person next to you and discuss, right? And we just, like, looked at each other and, like, shrugged and went about our business, as those things usually go. If there are any teachers watching, which there aren't, never do that.
Track record has shown.
If Pat Broadster comes back and he's like, yo, I just got done teaching my third I'll lose my mind. But where was I going with this? Yeah, so we only talk to each other. The teacher would talk to the person next to you. But basically, like I said, this is a very drilling class. Like, it's a lot of hard work goes into it. So midterms kick up, and we had 5 midterms for the.
Oh wow!
Like, and one of them was we had to fill out a 20-page document. Okay. Right. And our teacher's like, "This is individual work. You may not work with other people." So of course, what we did is we created a document and we shared it with the entire class so that we could all work on it. And like, I know I'm probably breaking some school code by saying that I did that, but sue me, whatever.
Boys, clip it.
Yeah, clip it. We all shared this document with each other, right? Like, it was the girl next to me and the girl behind me, whose name is Sarah. So we're all like working on it, and we share it out with the rest of the class. And we expect them to do some work on it because, you know, 25-page document, like, counts toward our grade. No one else works on it.
Wow.
So I turn, I'm like, yo, Sarah, I think we got to keep this document. And she's like, yeah, I think that's what's got to happen. So I turn back and I say, let's execute Order 66, right? Yeah. That's what I say. And that's a reference to though if you hit the next slide, that's the scene where that is from, where Emperor Sheev Palpatine orders the stormtroopers to basically betray the Jedi and basically kill off everyone. That's what Order 66.
Yep. He's here. Oh my gosh. At high school. Oh, we have some chat above him. Let's see. We have some Jan McCarthy 1975. After he said bip bang bop, he said, "That's not why I said it. Sad face. I was just saying it." And then turtle emojis. Okay. Then Georgie boy, my boy. I have no, what is he talking about?
Then squid shrimps. I think that's in relation to George Lucas.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Then a bee playing a saxophone. Obviously.
Oh my gosh. Then Pat, hey boys, just got done teaching. What's poppin'? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Pat Broadster.
I love my teaching.
I figured out who Pat Broadster was, by the way.
Yeah.
Should we tell that story?
I love my job teaching anatomy at high school. Oh my gosh. Sebastian, I know where you live.
Yeah. I actually... Oh wait, no, you do know where I live. Yeah. I know where you live as well, Pat Broadster. I'll come and find you.
Do you? Gosh. But which person is controlling Pat Broadster?
Oh right, you have access to that too.
There's a lot of people that have access to Pat Broadster.
Wait, what?
Pat Broadster is not just one man; he's many.
He's many.
But anyways, going back to the story, which has taken 45 minutes to tell. I say execute Order 66 in relation to kicking everyone off the document.
Yep.
The girl to my left, who I've barely talking to, and this is midterms, so we've gotten through 2 quarters with barely any words between us. I say execute Order 66. She snaps her neck and looks at me. She's like, "What did you say?" Yo, it's Order 6. It's Star Wars, and she's like, "I know." And basically, she turns out to be the biggest Star Wars fan ever. Lives and breathes Star Wars. And we start talking. We on that same night or maybe the night after, we have a 4-hour long Discord call where we're just talking about the universe and all that. Wow. And then a week later, we had another 5-hour long Discord call. And basically, her name is Sophia or Sophie. I can't keep track of who's Sophia and who's Sophie, so I think she's Sophie. I invited her to be our next guest.
Nice. Huh. Yeah, we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about the elements of sci-fi. It's gonna be a fun episode.
Which she will be an expert in. As Star Wars universe.
Yep.
So we would not have our next guest if George Lucas hadn't have made Star Wars, and I hadn't have just used that one meme of execute Order 66.
Butterfly effect.
Butterfly.
Effect. Butterfly.
Let's see.
All right, you want to move on to the final?
Let's see. Brendan, do you have any anecdotes? Any butterfly effect anecdotes?
I never knew my real ladder.
Oh no. No.
Okay, then we have Jan McCarthy says, Pat Broadster is a man of mystery. Pat Broadster says, I am a woman. Oh, it's Patricia Broadster. Okay, that makes sense.
Patricia Broadster.
Jan McCarthy 1975 says, I'm not changing what I'm saying. Wow, okay. Pat Broadster is a man now. Okay. Well, that was interesting.
Things heating up in the Pat Broadster fandom.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Patricia Broadster. Anyways, yeah. Do you have any butterfly effect stuff, Brendan?
I don't.
You don't?
This was an interesting one.
Pat Broadster.
No, I'm not. It's not me.
It's not you? Okay.
It's not me, I swear. It's not me.
I've been trying to think of some anecdotes.
Okay.
I don't know. You just see it throughout your day. Okay. Some aspects.
Yeah.
Some things are just so volatile. And there's
we got 110 views in the last month on Pat Broadster.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Butterfly effect. I start uploading commercials on my main channel.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's interesting though, because think of say in the morning, you're making your bagel or toast or whatever, and the toaster like takes like a minute longer, so you get in your car a minute later, and because of that, you've avoided a major car accident, but you have no idea. That's the nature of chaos. That's the
You could
butterfly
never know.
effect.
Basically, the takeaway is live in constant fear. Every decision you make will be something so much larger than you could ever comprehend. Every little thing matters so much. Never make decisions. Live in constant fear.
Horrifying. Wow. I'm sure
Thank
the
you.
audience feels great
Yeah,
about that.
and also
Someone
be careful what
unsubscribed
classes
from my YouTube channel.
just now.
What?
No, like today.
Oh, okay.
So remember, be careful what classes you take and what college you go to,
Yep.
because that defines your children.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
See, my dad was lied to, and now he's stuck with me.
I
Yeah.
feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to think, just like, if there are alternate
I don't do that
timelines.
often.
You don't think often? Okay. If there are alternate timelines, just how different they might be, just on simple things. You think like maybe like you like go to some dystopian future and you're comparing notes with someone who's like a historian in a dystopian future, and you're like, where did this go wrong? I can't see anything. And then you see like, random like minor league soccer game in like 1937. One
It's
team
just a news
won.
clipping.
Yeah, one team won the coin
Cleveland
toss.
declared capital.
Yeah, exactly. Like one team won the coin toss instead of losing it, and like that caused them to win the game, or not even win the game, just get like one more point. And so like the entire history of the world is different. Like that would be crazy to find out. But it's unlikely we'll ever know.
Max has hacked into the source code of Earth
Yeah.
and knows these things. This is exactly what's going to happen. We need to get rid of Detroit.
Okay. I've heard
It's the
a.
truth.
What am I kidding? I can't say that.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say I've heard it's a lovely city, but I have not heard anyone say that, so that would be a lie. I have been there briefly, for like an hour, because I was flying, like, I was taking a flight, so I had to do a connection in Detroit. I couldn't fly direct, and
Yeah, I had to do a connection in Atlanta.
yeah,
I got 3 times in 20 minutes.
Yeah, Atlanta. Atlanta's a big hub. But yeah, when I was in Detroit, I got 2 T-shirts from the airport, like one of the airport stores. I don't know why. It was just like my mom got them for me, just like without me asking. So I'm like, okay. Sure. One says, "Think it's not illegal yet, Detroit Airport." The other says, "Talk nerdy to me, Detroit Airport." And I think they are very indicative of Detroit. In my few hours
I
on
went
Detroit,
to the Detroit airport and all I got was crappy.
yeah, I don't have much to go on in judging my opinions of Detroit, but I think those 2 T-shirts, they say it all. Right?
Yeah.
But butterfly effect is crazy.
So
Like,
yeah, my final thoughts on this. I would go converse. I would go inverse and converse. The converse is.
Isn't that a shoe brand?
I would go with the opposite of what Brendan is saying.
Okay.
I would say live your life without fear. Imagine
yeah.
if your choices had no consequences whatsoever. Live your life as if the world was yours to just mold, and just it's there for you. Make your choices like no one can judge them.
I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to say middle of the road, okay? You have to, when there are big decisions at play, you should put thought into them. But the, predicted amount that this decision will affect your life in the future should be proportional to the amount of thought you put into it. Don't let yourself get paralyzed by indecision with this butterfly effect talk. Don't let yourself be like, should I have cereal for breakfast this morning, or should I have toast? Which one will cause the world to erupt into flames 10 years from now, and which will lead humanity into a utopian society? I don't know, and therefore I'm just not going to eat breakfast. Don't do that. That is no way to live. I don't think it's like physically possible. If you tried to live like that, after like a day, you would kind of get sick of it. But yeah, so it's interesting butterfly effect though, because you think, when people they like when they're trying to go to bed and they just can't go to bed, and they think of like an argument they had a few days ago, and they think, oh, if I had only said this, I would have like won the argument. Like that's so much butterfly effect stuff. It really plays into our life, and unpredictability.
Yeah.
So yeah, butterfly effect. I'm really into that just for time travel and alternate history's sake. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we did a pretty good summary. We got some of the best examples here.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone watching had a fun stream.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hope
This is the shortest one I've been on by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that is true. I would like to, and that's because you only were able to talk for half of it. Well, no, I would like to thank you for coming on the show again, Brendan. It's always a pleasure, always a good time, and
it was an interesting one.
Yep, and I would like
this one was a.
Yep, and I would like to thank my co-host Sebastian for being here as always.
I'm not allowed to leave.
Yeah, go check out Yui Films and go check out 128 Seconds.
Max has us both hostage.
They're both wonderful YouTube channels. Okay, I will end the stream unless you guys have anything else to say. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm good.
What if I got a truly dead rock tattoo?
Oh my god.
I would recommend against it.
That goes from my sternum to my nostril.
I'm gonna get the entire transcript tattooed on my back.
I would recommend against it because I personally am not a fan of tattoos, so I would say no, just categorically.
I'm gonna go eat dinner with my family.
Okay, cool.
Because I've been gone for a weekend.
Your family that's only there because of the butterfly.
Yeah.
Yes. Damn. Boom. Are we still streaming?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay, cool. Bye. See ya.
Okay, bye.
Good stream, boys.
Cool. Should I end the stream? I'm gonna end the stream now.
Well, let's give them a proper send-off. Like, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for watching.
Fun. Max had fun. Brendan had fun.
Yep.
We all had fun. Pat Broadster had fun.
Yep.
Jan McCarthy had fun.
Yep.
Who else was in chat? Johan had fun. Missing Music we all had fun. Nice. So thank you for making this such a fun adventure. Yep. I hope you have a fun night. And don't let it be ruined by the fact that if you do so much as sneeze at the time, your children will die.
With that,
because of the butterfly effect.
Yeah. Thank you all, and have a good night.